Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's live stream, we're going to be talking about, what part of Mexico is right for you. Because, if you guys were not aware, Mexico's a big country that has a lot of variety to it. Just like the USA, just like a lot of big countries do. For a lot of people out there in the audience, you guys are from the United States of America. And as you guys already know, there's a lot of misconceptions as to what Mexico is, what it looks like, what life is like out here, and all that stuff. But, again, as you guys know, hopefully by now, for a lot of you guys know that Mexico is very different. In fact, in today's video, I decided to go back into the archives a bit, and I pulled this video out of my butt. All right, this is from when we went to Oaxaca. This is in 2021, so March of 2021. So yeah, right in the middle of the whole COVID thing, we went out there, to Oaxaca, and we went to visit the area. And from what I understand, it has changed dramatically. It has changed a lot in the last 4 years since we visited, since we were there. But anywho's, at least by watching this, you guys can get a little rough idea as to how different it is and what it looks like. Because I live personally in Mérida, Yucatan, and that is all the way on the Yucatan Peninsula, which is in fact, let's go into it real quick. Here, I'm gonna pause this and here so you guys can see where we're at here. Okay. So that's the map. As you guys can see how different it is. And so I am living where I live is all the way on the other end. As you guys can see there in the Yucatan Peninsula, you can see how different it is. In fact, let me move my head real quick so you guys can see hold on a second, the legend. Okay. You see? I'll be floating in the air for a second. But as you guys can see there, I live in a very low-lying area of Mexico, and a lot of Mexico is very high, high up in the mountains. As you can see, there's a lot of green all over the place. But anywho's, so when we went to Oaxaca, Oaxaca is all the way down here. Let's show this other map. Oaxaca is all the way over here. Okay, in this area. All right, so it wasn't that far from Mérida, all right, where I live, and but anyway, so it's up in the mountains, so it's like a mile above sea level, and we were in Oaxaca City, all right. So this is again back like 4 years ago. I recorded a lot of videos there. I got a whole playlist, okay, of all the things that we did when we went to visit, so you guys can check that out if you're interested later on. It's on my channel. It's right on my home page again. You guys can see that's my YouTube page there. You can just scroll down real quick, and I think the playlist is right there, right under the Guadalajara playlist. You see it? Okay, so back to the map. Anyway, so that's Oaxaca. That's one place. In fact, this place seems to be, kind of popular these days. A lot of people are moving to Oaxaca, gentrifying it or what have you. Puerto Escondido, which is down here, the beach. Okay, so that's a popular spot. Again, another popular spot, Guadalajara, the Lake Chapala area, the, Ajic, that whole area there. Where else? Puerto Vallarta, which is right over here. It's just a stone's throw away. All right. You got Mexico City, not too far away. You see where all these areas are right next to each other. So like the middle of Mexico, just look at it, just think of it more like the east coast of the USA. So, on the east coast of the USA, you got Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, Boston, Connecticut, Delaware. You got everything right there, right next to each other. So it's the same kind of idea here with this area. So, from Guadalajara, so you guys can get an idea, let's look, Guadalajara to directions, Mexico City, right? Okay, here, drive. Okay, see, it's just a 6-hour drive. Okay, and that's because a lot of construction. You're going through the mountains. Okay, and but it should be like, if it wasn't for the mountainous terrain, it might be like a 4-hour drive or whatever. But look, guys, you know, some of you guys out there, if you leave, you know, LA, you're in like North LA, and you're trying to drive all the way down to San Diego in peak traffic, you know, that's 6 hours. Okay, but anyways, I digress. The point. The point I'm making is that it's not that far away from each other, and that's like, you know, on one end to the other end. Okay, so that's Mexico City there, and again, right around Mexico City, you see all the popular places like, you know, again, Querétaro, right? You always hear about Querétaro, right? You hear about Guanajuato, right? You hear about San Luis Potosí, right? All these are popular spots. You see how close they are to get together, you know? Aguascalientes, all right? People moved to Morelia, again, Mexico City, Puebla. You see Puebla all the way down here, okay? All right, so you can see all these areas are right next to each other, all right? All right, Acapulco's all the way down here. You know, some people like that area. Where are the other areas that are popular? We got Puerto Vallarta. We got Nayarit. People moving out here. Moving to Mazlatan, right? I don't know if I said it right. Mazlatan, Culiacan. I don't know if many people are moving there or not, but you know, some places are a little dangerous. I think that might be one of those dangerous places. Oh, look, La Paz. Oh, we had our friend from almost retired in Mexico, right? He's from La Paz, or he's living in La Paz, and they have like a ferry, like a little boat ferry that will take you, I think, to La Paz from Mazlatan. I think. I don't know. But I do know there's a ferry that gets you from, or is it from Cabo San Lucas? Oh, that's down there, you see? Okay. And I got a friend of mine that's all the way up in Ensenada. In fact, I interviewed him, and he's going to be coming up in a video soon. So stay tuned to that. So if you want to know more about what it is to live up here in Ensenada, which is like an hour and a half away from Tijuana and San Diego, 2 hours away, whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm going to interview, you know, I interviewed him, and that's going to be in a video coming up real soon, okay? So stay tuned for that. So, you know, long story short, you know, Mexico is very varied. I mean, I can go on and on. You know, all these areas up here towards the north, some people like the border, some people don't. Monterrey, you know, Monterrey, Guadalajara, and Mexico City are the three biggest and most important cities in Mexico. You know, Mexico City being the capital, so number one by default. Okay, Mexico City is number one by default, and then Guadalajara and Monterrey are always fighting for second and third place. Okay, Monterrey is a mega monster powerhouse because that's where, you know, all the cars are constructed. There's a lot of manufacturing up there. It's right next to the border, right next to Texas. Oil refineries, a lot of manufacturing of all kinds of things. When the Chinese are building their factories for the nearshoring, you know, everything. Tesla, when he was building it, everything's up there. All the big major monster manufacturing is up there. It happens all over the country, but that's like the major hub. And then Guadalajara is kind of like the opposite. Guadalajara is more like Silicon Valley these days. Okay, they're more like again, they're a major. Again, just like California and just like that whole area, this whole area is a big basket of how do I say this? You know, where agriculture. So there's a lot of agriculture that comes from there. A lot of you know, beef, you know, chicken, you know, whatever, you know, all that stuff. So again, a lot of ranches, a lot of agriculture, and it's a major tech hub. You know, this is where they're building all the computer chips, where they're building all the robotics. Yeah, they got robotics. In fact, the Mexican kids were the ones that won this last year's robotic competition. Okay, anyways, long story short, robotics, was it computer chips, all kinds of things, you know, video chips. You know, video chips are very different than computer chips, you know, graphics chips. Anyways, long story short, a lot of chips besides potato chips, all right? So a lot going on, okay, out of here. A lot of money, okay? A lot of tech, a lot of important stuff, you know, Oracle's based out of there. There's a lot of things, you know. Anyways, long story short, that's that. And then Mexico City is just like the capital, you know, like the main hub for everything. So those are those areas. Again, we got Oaxaca, and then as you get more, look, as you go deeper towards the east, meaning this direction, all of a sudden you notice things are very different out here. Things are more spread out. There's a lot of nothing almost, in a sense. And the reason for that being is because, well, this would be considered like the South. What is the South? It's the South of Mexico, but it would be like the South in the USA, meaning the South. That at one point, like for example, this area, the Yucatan and the Yucatan Peninsula, but this area mainly out here, this used to be just like 150 years ago, 200 years ago. Up here in the South in the USA, it used to be, all cotton gins and peanuts and, whatever. It was a lot of, what was going on out there at that time. What was the fashion at the time. But anyways, what was going on in the South. It used to be a manufacturing powerhouse. Not so much now. When you go see the giant plantations and the giant whatever, okay, same thing. Anyway, so same thing was going on out here. Out here, same thing. Only the product out here was henequen. And henequen is basically like hemp. And basically, if you know anything about anything, hemp was, it ruled the world, especially during those days, because hemp was needed for everything. Especially for all the ships, all the rope that was needed for everything. Anyways, I digress. It was a major powerhouse, and Mérida was the capital of that powerhouse. So many moons ago, again, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, Mérida was one of the richest cities in the world. Yeah, believe it or not. And it was living in decadence, and there was a lot of money and richness and all that stuff. And it was right in the middle of all these trade routes, think about it. People coming from Europe. Let's say a boat leaving Spain, and it would come out here, and then it would land in Cuba. It would land in Cuba. And then from Cuba, it would, Havana, actually, to be more precise. And then from Havana, it would get redistributed, where, okay, we're going to go north, or we're going to go to New Orleans, or we're going to go to Mérida, or we're going to go straight to this area, I think Veracruz, in order to go to Mexico City. All right. And that was kind of like the trade routes in a sense. And again, there was a lot of stuff like the henequen that was produced out of Mérida. There was a reason why there was so much trade route and richness and money, because again, every ship had to stop through here, okay, in order to pick up that henequen to, well, ship it to the rest of the world. And so at one point, just like the South here, okay, in the USA was some of the richest in the world or in the country. Well, same thing, down here was a very similar thing. But anyways, with that said, it has similar history and similar environment, meaning it was very hot. It's again, I live in the jungle. This is all jungle out here, okay, and it's a very, very different environment, very harsh environment. And just like Florida, for anyone that knows anything about Florida, yes, Florida is one of the most populated states right now, but 100 years ago, there was nobody there. So same thing with the Yucatan, you know what I mean? Like, it had its ups and downs, but when it had the industry, there was a lot of people here, a lot of richness, a lot of money. That's why you see all these big mansions, you see all these big boulevards, you see all these big buildings that were built through opulence and richness and money and all this stuff throughout the centuries or whatever. Because again, this was just like 200 years ago, but the richness goes way back. I mean, the cathedral here in Mérida, just to give you guys context, was built in the 1500s. Okay, so just FYI, remember, USA was founded in 1776. Okay, so a good 250 plus years after. Okay. They built a freaking cathedral out here, one of many, all right, throughout the region. Anyways, I digress. So, it's funny how quickly you forget history that just happened not that long ago. Happened like, what, 5 people ago, as I like to say. One people is like 80 years, I would say. Okay, anyways, all right. Stick to history, stick to the regions. So, again, that's another major aspect of like living out here as well, that if you're going to be living in Mexico, each part has like its own history and its own culture and its own everything, just like in the USA. Every part has their own culture, own history, many things like that as well. So, with that said, out here in the Yucatan, this whole region of the Yucatan. It's like the South in the USA, the Southern drawl, their version of it. Everything is like super slow, very hot, humidity. Like if you go to Campeche, it's very hot and humid, like Florida. When you're in Merida and we're in the Yucatan up here where I'm at, it's just hot, but it's a different kind of heat. It's like a jungle heat. You got the beach. Everyone asks me all the time, Jose, what is your favorite beach? Okay, look at the map. You see the map? They're all freaking amazing. Okay, and you have access to all of it. It's not like the USA, man. Again, it's a different world out here where it's like, oh, you only have access to like a couple points. Hey, you can only go to this beach, that beach. No, listen. You have access to all the beaches. So look, for anyone out there that wants to buy a beach home, listen, that doesn't mean you own the beach. So if all of a sudden one day you wake up, okay, you're in your underwear and you step out of your home because you have a beachfront home, and all of a sudden you have like a family reunion, camping in front of your home right there, and they're having a party in front of your home, you cannot do anything about it. It's a public beach. So long story short, you have access to all the beaches, okay? So the reality is that, each beach is very different. This is just this region. We're going to focus on this region for 1 second, okay, just for the purpose of the beach situation. Well, long story short, you have access to the beaches basically where the roads are at. Because there's beaches out here, but you gotta like hike out there. How are you gonna get out there? There's like nothing out there. There's no roads out there, So that's the thing. But other than that, where there's roads, there's beaches, and you can access all those beaches. I like to, go to the beaches out in these regions, okay, that are as far away from the city as possible. All right. Well, that's it. All right. Some people prefer to be right on Progreso. They want that. They want the, what that. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I'll go out there. It's fine. It just depends. But all the beaches have like their thing. Some are more quiet than others. Some have fishing. Some have, camping. Some have, again, you go to Progreso, you got the party. As much party as you're gonna have out here. It's not Cancun. Again, you want like party Miami style, like crazy, monkeys hanging from the wall, you go to Cancun, you go to that area, spring break, okay? But all these other beaches out here just as amazing and good. I hear amazing things about the, Chetumal, Bacalar, all these areas. We definitely want to go visit. Chetumal is the capital of Quintana Roo, which is the neighboring state, as you guys can see there. Okay. All right, a lot of people live out here. A lot of people go to Tulum. You already know. Tulum is where all the hippies are and stuff like that. And so every state is different. So like, let's say you're into hippie stuff. You want to be taking, hippie drugs and living the hippie lifestyle. Okay, you'll go to Tulum. You might even go to Puerto Escondido. You might even go to certain parts of Oaxaca. Let's say you want to open up a yoga studio. Yeah, well, you'll probably end up in Oaxaca, and sell fruit juices or whatever, or what do you call those, cleanse juices? Yeah, maybe over there, or Tulum. If you want to live a more kind of like quiet, old Florida lifestyle, then you would stick to Merida. Merida would be more of a, like it's turning into like, I guess like the West Palm Beach area, certain areas, Broward area, whatever of Florida. And then Campeche would be, this whole area would be like super old Florida, like old Florida. For anyone that knows what I'm talking about there. And then, as you go to the other states, you got Chiapas. A lot of people love San Cristobal de las Casas. It's very chill and relaxed out there. It's up in the mountains, okay? So, people like there, like that area. A lot of people like Oaxaca. Some people are, moved to Veracruz. My friend Tree loves Veracruz. I got friends that are in Acapulco. I got friends that are, all the way out here as well, like in, Guadalajara, in the Jalisco area. But all these areas are different though. Now, when you're moving to all these areas, they're all very different. So again, if you want the South, you're sticking to this region. Okay, that's the South. Okay, this region right here. There. Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized the music was playing. It's a little too loud. Sorry about that. I apologize if that was too distracting there. Shut up, Mike. We got Mike Leone in the house. So we got Mike. He is from all the way up in Ensenada. Shout out to him again. That's my friend Mike. He's the one I interviewed, so stay tuned for that. For those of you guys that are waiting for this. So if you want to know what life is like up here in Ensenada, what life is like up in northern Baja, um, stay tuned for that interview. That's coming up real soon. So shout out to Mike. But yeah, like I said, every area is different. So if you want areas that are very similar in climate to California or the Southwest, then you would stick to the Baja California area, Baja Sur, Sonora, all these areas. Okay, a lot of desert up there, very similar. Okay, if again, you want to move somewhere to like closer, like to Florida, Florida environment, Florida weather, you might stick to the Yucatan Peninsula. And depending on where you go, depending on the severity of the heat, the weather, the humidity, depending on what you're going to find, as well. Again, if you go to Cancun, that's like Miami South Beach. You go to Merida, it's turning into more like a West Palm Beach, whatever, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? They're all like little different areas. And then when you come out here again to the middle of the country, this is where like 80% of the Mexican population lives, is right in the middle. And you got all areas, everything you can imagine. Again, just like the East Coast, northern East Coast of Florida. I'm sorry, northern East Coast of the United States. Everything from New England all the way down to like Philadelphia and so on and so forth. That whole region. And they're all very different. But that would be like the whole middle of the country. All right. And for those out there that want like the small, like the sleepy town, let's say I want to move to like, I don't know, Pensacola, Florida, but that would be like Mazlatan, I guess, I don't know. I never really been there myself, but I would just take a guess. But and so on and so forth. So like all I'm saying is that, for anyone out there that's interested in moving to Mexico, all you got to do is just a little research, okay? And to basically, hey, look, you got to be honest with yourself. You're like, hey, person, this is what I want. I want to live in this kind of environment. I want this. I want that. Yada yada yada, and then seek that out. So, for example, for some of you guys out there, for me, okay, for Mike, for many people out there in the audience, we prefer to be in a Spanish speaking environment. That's it, straight up. So for us, basically, the whole country is our oyster. We can go anywhere we want, because we speak Spanish. But for some people out there that not only do not speak Spanish, but hey, you might not have any desire to speak Spanish. So that's totally fine. Whatever, I get it. Well, there are regions of Mexico, believe it or not, that some speak a lot better, English than others. Okay, not just Spanish. All right. So, for example, out here where I live, as you guys can see from there, I know you don't speak Spanish. Some of you do or don't, but colors never lie, right? Right. We got the color chart, so the colors should help.
Bruh.
But with that said, red basically means no Englishy, por favor, okay? No English. And green means yes English. Sí, we speak English, okay? Obviously, things vary, throughout the region. Some areas are going to speak more than others, like cities and areas and, certain areas like that. But with that said, as you guys can see here from the map, all right, there are regions here in green, okay, that speak very good English. Now, again, look, just so you can understand, okay? Okay, it says right here, just for translation purposes only, okay? It says level of dominance, okay? Level of English speaking dominance, okay? So red is muy bajo, meaning only understand hola. Say no, how about this? Hi, sir. Hi, America. Hi, that's like very low, okay? So like basic words, okay? Bajo is, they can understand a little bit. So, they might be able to see like a police academy and maybe understand it, kind of, sort of. They might be able to keep up with a conversation a little bit, maybe, kind of, sort of, in the sense of like, not keep up with a conversation, but like, if you maybe speak a little bit, hello, my name is Eduardo. Oh, hola, yo soy John. That would be bajo. Okay, they'll be yellow. All right, and then green Okay, the green would be again a little bit of capacity, meaning oh, hello, how are you? You are from California? And then you speak. It's like, oh, well, actually, I'm actually from New York City. It's like, oh, okay, okay, speak a little slower. Yes, I'm actually from New York City. Oh, okay, senor. Yes, I understand New York City. I got a cousin. He live in New York City. And then you're like, oh, okay, what part of New York City? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's like Manhattan or oh, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so like just to giving you really bad examples here. Hold on, let me. And you guys in the audience are.
Bruh.
Wait, hold on.
How dare you?
Anyway, long story short, just to get an idea. Okay, so don't be expecting miracles. Okay, obviously in the green regions, you will find people that might be able to have a conversation with you, like the one I'm having you with you right now. Maybe at a slower pace. Maybe being able to, not dominant for 100%. How's it going, Aaron? Shout out to you, brother. But you're going to find a lot more Mexicans that speak English. Okay, so again, what are these regions? Again, Monterrey, which is Nuevo León, all the way at the top, NL. Okay, that's where again Monterrey is, which is again they deal with the USA all day, every day. Guadalajara, okay, Jalisco, that's where again all of the tech is, all the tech manufacturing, everything we discussed, and then Mexico City, right there in the green, a little dot right there in the middle. And then Baja, Sur, because that's La Paz, that's what you call it, like Cabo and all these other places. And they've been seeing gringos out there since forever. All right, same as the right next door in Sinaloa. That's where Mazlatan is and things like that. A lot of tourist action when it comes from from the gringos. Americans, Canadians, whatever. So they know English there. They know a little bit more English. Also the closer proximity to the USA. You see all the yellow there and things like that. Now, you come out here to Yucatan, where I live, Quintana Roo, where Cancun is and things like that. You're only going to find English, okay, in the tourist areas. So if you're in Cancun and you're in the tourist areas, where all the resorts are, yeah, you're going to find English. You're going to find people that speak probably better English than me in those areas. Okay, same as here in the city. If you're in the touristy area, right in the central, yeah, you're gonna find people who speak English. In fact, you're gonna find that in most touristy areas for the most part. But if you just venture outside of the city, outside of the touristy area, yeah, okay, good luck. Good luck finding someone that speaks English outside of Merida. I mean, I know they're out there. They're out there. They exist. I have seen them. They want to practice English with me or my friends when we're out there. Very rare. Most of them, again, a few words here or there, and are actually happily surprised that I speak Spanish. Therefore, we're able to communicate. All right. But yeah, no, it is almost non-existent. Okay, in many areas. All right. So just keep that in mind. But again, depending on you out there and your level of dominance of Spanish will depend on where you go. All right, and where you might want to be at. So the reason, again, like Jalisco is in super green is because that's where Lake Chapala is, that's where Ajic is, that's where Guadalajara is, that's where Puerto Vallarta is. I mean, I could go on and on. So, um, shout out to Aaron out there. Says, hey there, Jose, looking to connect with you very soon. Yeah, man, hit me up. Hit me up, okay? I think I talked to you last time you were in the chat, but I think you missed it. Anyways, hopefully you're there right now. If you're still listening, email me, man, so we can get together, so we can do an update. We can do another video together, all right? A more extensive video together and all that good stuff, okay? So yeah, you just email me whenever you get a chance, and we'll set that up for whenever we got time. I know we're both busy. Shout out to you. Thank you, bro. Let me see. But yeah, anyways, but yeah, shout out to everyone out there. James says, but Quintana Roo is highly touristic, so isn't English have some level of understanding? Yes, I say yes. That's what I was saying. Yes. So, but again, in Quintana, it's not Quintana Roo. It's all heavily touristy. There's only it's just the Cancun area, okay, and the Tulum area, and just a couple spots. Because again, if you look into the rest of the state, here we'll look into the map so you can see the rest of the state. There's nothing out there. Even though there's nothing out there, there might not be any roads. There's nothing really, really out there. There are people out there. They're called Mayans. Okay. In fact, some of the people that live in these regions out in the middle of freaking jungle, like here, look, 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 look. You guys can see there's nothing there, right? But I'll just zoom into a random spot and you start seeing all little villages and pueblos. And we've been to some of these, okay? We're gonna go to more soon. But look, just look at this random spot in the middle of nowhere, like population like 5. The people there probably don't even speak Spanish. They just speak Mayan, just to get an idea. And look at that. Like, what road? How do you even get there? Like, the hell? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so that's when that map is kind of looking at. It's not looking at just like the two spots, meaning Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum. No, it's the whole area. Okay, so again here, just so you can see again the whole area. Okay, see, there's a lot of area there. There's nothing. Okay, see, just jungle. But you see, it's a town. There's something there. You see, there's a church. There's something there. There's people there. It's a village. You see? Oh no. What I do there? Jeez. What was that?
Bruh.
Anyways, no, but yeah. So I mean, like I said, you'll be lucky if you find anyone that even speaks Spanish here, let alone English. Okay, so just FYI. So you got to remember that's what the map is talking about. That's what I'm kind of talking about here. So Turquoise Pimp says, my wife is Mayan. She is part Mayan, but she has, because again, just going back into history, what I was talking about earlier here about this region. So, this region, just like the South in the USA, there used to be a lot of, plantations out here, or what is it, their version of plantations? What do they call them? Anyways, I'll remember in a second. Anyways, their versions of that. And yes, they brought a lot of slaves out here, like it is what it is. But the slaves that they would bring out to this region were actually from China, from Korea, from other parts of Asia, the Mayan people that were here, the Spanish that came, things like that. So yeah, long story short, yeah, Christian has like a mixture of that, like she has pictures, her one of her grandparents is from Korea, someone else is from, I think Chinese, like distant Mayan on another side, Chinese. Yeah, so haciendas, correct, thank you. Haciendas are, what I was talking about. But so yeah, so back in the day when there was haciendas everywhere and all that stuff, and they would come out here to work the fields, whether it was Henneken or whatever it was. Yeah, what I mean, that's where all that came from. But yeah, long story short, a lot of this region, especially when you go deep, let's just go deep, outside the let's color outside the borders for a second here. Yeah, the Mayans, they're all over this region that you're seeing on the map, including, in fact, their main hub these days is more like in the Guatemala area. All right. So you're going to see a lot of Mayans. And the Mayans here are very different. The Mayans here are not so nice. They're a little bit more mean, a little bit more, what they used to be. They were like basically warriors, like, I'm going to kick your ass, that kind of stuff. And they're still basically holding their ground from the white man, the conquistador. So it's a battle that's been going on over 500 years. But long story short, yes, this whole area is a lot of Mayan. There's still a lot of resistance. And again, it's a jungle. Think about it. It's like the middle of the jungle. How the hell are they gonna get conquered? Like, come on. You guys are out there complaining. You don't have enough bug spray. So, anyways, just FYI, all right. So, just that's this region, okay. But in these regions, it's different because these regions out here, it's mountains. So, just from a perspective of like, trying to conquer Mexico, no matter what country, no matter whatever. Again, even back during the Spanish, that's why the Spanish could never fully conquer, this region, these people, because the whole everything, because it's mountains. It's like Afghanistan. When the Spanish Empire came out here, it was like that's their version of Afghanistan. It was like they couldn't do anything. So it was like mountains and desert, jungle. I mean, are you kidding me? It was like it's a miracle they were able to imprint as much as they were able to imprint. But long story short, I mean, that's why you still see remnants, all over like the South America, Latin America, all over the place of Indian culture, of indigenous Indian culture, all the indigenous culture from, you know. And by the way, they are Indian, okay? They're Indian, okay? A lot of people are like, oh no, the Indian's a bad term. They're supposed to be indigenous. No, no, no. No, no, no. A little history lesson. I know you guys love your history lessons on my channel here. Um, Anywho's. No, but Indian actually is derived from the term, ¿cómo se llama? Indio de Dios or niño de Dios. De Dios, So long story short, when the Spanish came, okay, they came with their Christian Catholicism. Remember that, okay? And they came out here to conquer with religion. Okay, they were gonna basically baptize everybody. Turn everybody into Catholic Christian. What? Anyways, long story short, when they first arrived here, when the Catholic priest and those people started, when they arrived here and they started seeing the Indian people and seeing their innocence again. I'm not talking about the Aztec out here that were sacrificing people and eating people alive. No, no, no. The others. There was. Anyways, the peaceful Indians and stuff. They say, oh, that's where the term indios, came from. Like niño de Dios. Hijo de Dios. Like the child of God. You guys are children of God. So that's kind of like, So indio, like that basically is what they say now, what the word is now, but it derived from that. And there's like tons of evidence, because I read this, man, where was it, man? Like I want to say like almost a year ago, and I was like so blown away by that. I was like, wow, because we're all told the story of the, whatchamacallit, of Christopher Columbus coming out here and thinking, he's looking for India. Look, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. India didn't even exist back then. The name India didn't exist. India, I don't know where the name came from, but India was like India was put there by the British. All right, the name India, that whole thing is by the British, which came way after. Way after, okay, like hundreds of years later. Okay, so that whole thing of Christopher Columbus looking for India, there was no India. There was no India. All right, that's like if he was looking for, hold on, damn it, hold on, man, I wanted to do like, oh yeah, okay, hold on. That's he was out there looking for India. That's like if he was out there looking for, I forget it. Anyways, I digress. The point I'm making is, the point I'm making is that that's where the term Indian, indio, indios comes from. Okay, the more you know. All right, let me see. I think I got that one too. I'm learning to make. Oh, I don't have it. No, hold on, maybe I do. Hold on, I gotta. Anyways, I don't know. I'm searching my whole computer here just to get one stupid meme. I forget it. Okay. Anyways, guys. So, anyways, I hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. Shout out to everyone out there. I guess I don't have it. All right, forget about it. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, so, all right, where were we? Where were we? We were talking about Mexico and the places to live in Mexico before I went on a tangent, talking about all kinds of history nonsense that you guys didn't ask for. My apologies. Yeah, that's right. Apocalypto. I just saw a random comment there. It says Apocalypto was filmed in Mexico. Correct. In fact, it was filmed in the Yucatan. It was filmed in this region. They did not like I remember the movie, they did not specify that they were Mayan or specify the type of Indian or anything like that. But yes, it was filmed out here and it was done out here and things like that. Great movie. Great movie. So but anyways, but that's the history of India. Sorry, the Indians. But yeah, I digress. But anyways, yeah. Long story short, because of the mountainous terrain, all right, you guys can see there all this mountainous terrain on this side. Look at that. So again, think about it. Look at the mountainous terrain, just like the Rockies. If anyone that's been out there, you guys know how insanely massive and gargantuan all that is. So again, that extends all the way down, and basically most of Mexico is that. So yeah, you know what I mean. That's why they really have never really been conquered, and then the rest is jungle. So you see, all this is mountains and jungle, mountains and jungle, all the way through. You get down here and it's just jungle. I mean, come on, you know, get out of here. You know, no one's been able to penetrate the Amazon, and then mountains. These are insane. This is like, come on. There's people out there living like 700 billion miles. They're basically touching touching what is it? They're about to hit outer space. That's how high they are up here. All right. So yeah, look at all the anywho's. All right, I digress. Stay the course, man. We're talking about Mexico here. Yeesh. Yeesh. But anyways, level of English is something to consider when you're moving out here. Also, look at that. There's a map so you guys can see all the different states. All right, so you guys can see how different the states are. All right, I'm gonna go on ahead and read the chat real quick. See what you guys are talking about there. See if you guys have any questions or comments. And we're gonna get back to the walk. We're walking around Oaxaca. So again, this is when we went to Oaxaca 4 years ago. I can't believe it's already been 4 years. So this was right in the middle, the beginning of COVID, or at the beginning, or the middle of COVID or whatever. So just in case you see things are a little weird or not as many people on the streets or whatever. Again, this is a 4-year-old video, but as you guys can see what Oaxaca looked like 4 years ago, because from my understanding, Oaxaca's changed a lot, through the gentrification. It was not that gentrified back then. It was already happening, but not anywhere close to what it was, back in the day. So, a little sneak peek. By the way, another reason there's nobody on the streets right now is because that was the first day. That was when we just got there to Oaxaca, and I think it was like 7 in the morning or something like that. Okay, so it was like 7 in the morning, super crazy early. Nobody out there. Let's see if we can fast forward a bit. There you go. See people. See, they're setting up shop. That's how early we were. They're starting to set up shop. AR says, I don't know if this has been asked before, but if someone wanted to buy a big plot of land, like a few acres, where's a good place? Somewhere near the jungle? I mean, it again depends. It depends on you and depends on what you want. The jungle has its benefits, but it has a lot of negatives as well. Just like a lot of benefits, like for example, if you want to start a garden, you want to grow, it might be extremely difficult in the jungle for obvious reasons. Again, a lot of people always like when I'm showing videos of houses and developments here in the Yucatan, and they, take down all the trees to build something. It's like, man, this is not like any other part of the world, man. The jungle's a jungle because, like, I've seen it. When I used to come out here, I was very critical of that as well. But then after living here, I realized, oh no, wait a minute. Like, the jungle just overgrows everything. If you're not constantly cutting it down, the jungle will eat the city, will eat everything. So that's just part of that. So obviously, if it's going to eat the city, it's going to eat everything else. So it's very difficult for certain things. If you want to have a garden, you want to have, you want to have an orchard, then maybe you want to move somewhere else. You want to move more in the Central Valley, where you're going to find more of that. But again, it depends on where you move. Depends on where you're, if you're going to be in danger in the rural area or not. Some areas, believe it or not, the reality is that you can't be just in the middle of a rural area. There's just cartels out there, and you're just gonna get in the middle of whatever, some places you just don't want to be there for obvious reasons, and sometimes, they're so close by that they'll come by and take your orchard. So and there's other areas where you got nothing to worry about. But you have to do that research on your own because that's a very vague question. The reality, yeah, you can do it, but I don't know. It's like asking me the same thing. It's like, hey, I want to just have a few acres of land and I want to have a barn and I want to have like a nice little peaceful life in the USA. Where do you recommend? Like, I don't know. You want Vermont? Iowa? Northern California? Utah? Florida? They're all completely different and you could do it there. So that's the thing. I don't know. I don't know what you're into, but you got to do the research and you got to figure that out. Like I was saying earlier, y'all got to figure out what you want, okay, and what you're willing to deal with, what you're not willing to deal with. You got to do the research. You got to that. I don't know what you like. I might tell you, oh, the Yucatan, and be like, and then you simply say, oh, but I heard that it gets to 100 degrees here. Yeah, it gets hot. Oh, but that cuts it. Well, listen, man, I'm not gonna have this back and forth with everybody. It'd be, I'll Anywho's. So, but yeah, that's the thing. You all got to like kind of figure out what the thing is. So, again, Raul says on the West Coast, which is better, Acapulco, Puerto Vallarta. I don't know. It depends on what you're looking for. You know what I mean? What you're into. You got to go visit both places, then you got to figure that out. Because I might say that I like Acapulco better, and you figure out like, oh no, Puerto Vallarta is better. Jose was wrong. Like, no, I wasn't wrong. That's what I think it was. That's what I thought it was better. How do I know what you think is better? So again, you got to keep that in mind for every location. I love where I'm at now. You know how many people come to Merida, okay, thinking that they're gonna love it, having no clue what they're in for, and then they come out here, and within a couple of years, they're blaming me, for moving out here. It's like, bro, for what? Because I loved it, just because I love it here. What is that? Why are you assuming that you're gonna love it too? Because look, there's a lot of people that love living in the mountains, in the snow. I don't. I respect that they do, and it is what it is. But I mean, I would never live in the mountains with snow. It's nice to visit, nice to go hang out and check out, from time to time. But I'd rather have a beach next to, I'd rather have a beach close by than having a ski lodge. But that's the thing. The reality is that it's very different. You know what I mean? For every region of Mexico, it's very varied, just like the USA. And you have to figure out what it is you want to do, what kind of environment you want to live in, how much Spanish do you speak. It's like there's 100 questions you got to ask and figure out, because that's a big decision. If you're going to do that. So for anyone that's going to do anything like that, or anything like, hey, I want to move to Mexico. If you can, if possible, try to check out different parts of Mexico, because they're all very, very different. Okay. So, let me see. All right. So, I'm reading you. Creative Flavor says, hey, Jose, finally caught you live. Shout out to you. Says, you will be going to Querétaro in a few weeks. Awesome. Hope you enjoy your trip. Do the Mayans stay separated from other Mexican people? The thing is that there's a lot of, classism out here in Mexico. So they just keep, a lot of times they keep to themselves because, throughout the centuries and the years, let's say a Mayan or an indigenous person comes to like the center of town to sell their goods, and they just get discriminated against very badly. Very, like a black person in the USA 100 years ago. Like, no bueno. Things are changing. Things are really changing a lot. They have been changing since man, I want to say like 8 years now. They've been changing a lot, but like really, really ramping up in the last couple years, especially now with Claudia Scheinbaum, where there's been a big resurgence of, hey, we're proud of our indigenous heritage, we're proud of our past, we're proud of all this stuff. It's like no more, poo-pooing on the Mayans, no more poo-pooing on the indigenous, not the wall, no more none of that crap. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's it. You know what I mean? Which is hard. It's kind of like it's hard to kind of impose that on the people and the culture. But that is kind of like a reality of it. I mean, there are plenty of places, in Mexico. Here, I want to show you real quick here on the map. But there are plenty of places, on the map, spots where there's black populations. You go to Veracruz, you go to Oaxaca, and they got full cities, you got full areas where it's just black people, black Mexicans. They're Mexican, but they're black, and they keep to themselves. And you're gonna find the indigenous people like in many places. For example, you go to a place like Chiapas, and Chiapas is heavily indigenous, and it's more like they're pushing the Mexicans out, But then you go to a place like Guadalajara, which is like very white, like all white Mexicans, and they're pushing everybody out. Not white. No, they're not. They're not. They're really nice out there, but you know what I mean. Like in the sense of like, yeah, it's nice, inclusive. Yeah, all the liberal stuff. All inclusivity, but can you just do it over there? And not just there, but in many parts of Mexico, Mexico City, you name it, all throughout. Okay. There's a lot of whitewashing. There's a lot of, that. Look, this is a part of living in Mexico, and it's changing, but it's a reality. So yeah, a lot of people that are indigenous, or a lot of people that are, certain kind of like marginalized, cultures or whatever peoples, they just stick to themselves. They stay to themselves. They do their own thing. They got their own communities, own cities, own whatever. Yeah. So let me see. Raul says that's fair. You like Merida and the Yucatan because it's similar to South. Correct. Yeah. So that's it. You know what I mean? Like yeah. It's not just the weather. It's the vibe. It's many things. Again, it's not Florida. You know what I mean? At all. But it's as close as I'm gonna get to Florida. And again, especially South Florida because again, I'm from Miami. So soy cubano. Hablo español. Entonces, like there's Cuban. There's a lot of big Cuban influence out here. As big as it's gonna get. For Mexico in a sense, but yeah, it's nice. I like it. I lived in cold climates before, not a fan. So, like I said, even LA was too cold for me. So, yeah. Oh, awesome. Edith. Edith yeah, so it's the same thing with me. When I speak Spanish, people are always trying to guess where I'm from, like, "Oh, are you from Chile? Are you from Argentina? Are you from wherever?" Uh, they're surprised when I tell them I'm Cuban, I'm American. They're like, "Oh, wow, really? Wait, that's crazy." So, I'm going through the comments real quick here. I guess I play the relaxing music while we have the map in the back. No, there's like more of a map there, as you can see. What that looks like there. Let me see. All right, yeah, you guys were. Let me see. First time here. Any information in Morelia? Never been to Morelia, so I really don't have any information there. I just heard that a lot of people like it. So. Daniel says, Raul, I like both. Okay, he's talking to Raul there. All right, let's get back to the conversation, I guess. But yeah, so, out here, Mexico is a very, very, very place. Again, you can see it from the map right there. Again, the greener it is, the more mountainous it is, and the more yellow it is, the flatter it is. So over there where Merida is, the yellow doesn't mean desert. It just means flat jungle. And you see right there in Mexico, where right under it says Mexico, it says Central Plateau. Look at all that. So, and there's a lot of desert up there as well, and the mountain regions. But yeah, there's snow-peaked mountains. There's skiing. There's everything. Anything you can imagine is out here in Mexico. So for anyone out there, the reality is like I said, you have to kind of like do your own research, do your own homework. You're gonna have to really be honest and figure out what you want, what you're looking for. Again, I've talked about this multiple times. When it comes to living in Mexico, why are you moving to Mexico? Are you just moving to Mexico to save a few bucks, for cost of living? If that's the case, maybe don't move to Mexico. But if you're moving to Mexico because you want to get away from everything that's going on in your country, you want a better environment, higher quality of life, you want to learn and be exposed to a new culture, I can go on and on. There's many reasons why you would want to move out here. And when it comes to the environment, meaning they have everything out here. They got they got mountains, they got the desert, they got the Pacific Ocean, we got the Bay of Gulf of California, we got the Gulf of Mexico, we got Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic Ocean in a sense, depending on what part of the peninsula you're at. Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful out here. Like I said, the people are beautiful, the environment is beautiful, every single state is completely different and amazing. The food, again, they're all very different food. So, where I live in the Yucatan, out here, the food in this region is very similar to, let me see, can I zoom in? Where can I zoom in? Hold on a second. Okay, but yeah, out here in the region where I live, the Yucatan Peninsula and stuff like that, the food out here is closer to like Mayan food, Mayan cuisine, Mayan roots. Again, indigenous food. And then when you're up in like Baja, California, all the way at the top of my head there, that's where you're gonna get the fish tacos and the burritos and a lot of the food that you might be Again, Baja, kind of like Baja, the Taco Bell, like the Baja Blast. That's where you're gonna get Baja blasted, all right, up there. If you're moving up into, again, we're staying to the north, Sonora, Chihuahua, Coahuila, Nuevo León, I always forget. Anyways, that area, the north. That's where you're gonna find, again, Tex-Mex food. You're gonna find nachos, and you're gonna find burritos, and you're gonna find meat. Meat. That's where all the ranches are. That's where all the beef comes from. That's what you're gonna find up there. A lot of barbecue, barbacoa, all that amazing stuff. Then as you go down, let's say you're going into Sinaloa, Durango's, areas like that. You're gonna find the Sinaloan hot dogs. You're gonna find the Durango, whatever. Anyways, but you're gonna find their kind of food there. You move a little further down. And again, a lot of seafood, obviously, because you're on the Pacific coast. But then you eventually get to Jalisco, Guadalajara, and you're gonna have things like, again, like the torta ahogada. You're gonna have a lot of things that you're familiar with Mexico from. For example, that's where mariachis come from. That's where tequila comes from. Literally tequila. All that stuff. You go a little further south, and all the way, make it all the way down to like Oaxaca. That's where you get the mezcal from. That you get like tlayudas. That's where people are eating the crickets. That's where everybody's tripping on mushrooms. So on and so forth. You go to Mexico City. Mexico City is like New York City. So like in New York City, you're gonna find some of the best food. Period. You're gonna find everything from around the world and around Mexico there. So it's like New York City. And you go to Puebla, some of the best food, and I could go on and on. Food, culture, all completely different. Again, you go to like Jalisco, and Jalisco would be more to what you're used to in the sense of like um like what I was saying about like California. Same as the Baja California area, California, all that's like California type vibes, type stuff, type whatever, LA, whatever. When you move to like Mexico City, that's like New York vibes. The closer you are around the New York area, sorry, around the Mexico City area. Here, real quick here. The closer you are around the Mexico City area here, that's all the areas that you're going to find that are, again, similar to, oh, maybe this map is better. Ugh, whatever. I guess this map. Anyways, so you can find all the things that are similar, again, like Puebla, Hidalgo, Querétaro, Guanajuato. That's where you're going to find all the guys like the Boston, the Jersey, the Philadelphias of the world and all that stuff. So, I mean, that's the thing, they're all very different and they all have very different things. Just like different foods. You're going to find people are eating crabs in Baltimore, and they're eating Philly cheesesteaks in Philadelphia, and they're eating pizza in New York. Right? So, all right, let me see. We got some questions here. Do they eat burritos in Mexico? Yes, in some regions. If you go to, the Yucatan and ask for a burrito, they're going to give you this thing that looks like a burrito, but it's not a burrito. It's nothing. This just kind of looks like one. But you got to kind of eat it with a fork and knife. It looks more like a giant enchilito. You remember those enchilitos or a giant enchilada? But anyways, but if you want burrito, like a Chipotle burrito or a burrito you're gonna get in the USA, yeah, those are up north, northern region only. All right. Benefits of living among the locals compared to the gringos. I mean, well, again, when you're living all around the green, look, I've talked about this extensively, okay, and other videos. I'm not gonna harp too much on this today. But long story short, if from my experience, when I'm living around the gringos or when I'm around the gringos, it's basically like back home in the USA. And so for me personally, I was trying to get away from all that. So I live with the Mexicans. I'm married to a Mexican. I speak fluent Spanish, so I prefer that. I grew up in Miami. I grew up, my mom doesn't even speak English for crying out loud. So for me, living with the Mexicans is a lot more natural than living in Seattle when I lived in Seattle or LA or whatever, to be honest with you. So for me, it's just, yeah, I prefer that. Other people out there, well, they got to live with, other Americans or other Canadians because of the language barrier or the customs. They cannot get used to Mexico. For me, are you kidding me? I couldn't get used to Seattle, like getting used to Mexico is a lot easier, it's not. It's like nothing compared to that. So again, this is like it's a different for different people. So just really depends on who you are out there. But I mean, I got a lot of friends of mine are gringos. You guys see them in the videos, and Americans. I'm American at the end of the day. But yeah, no, it just they're just two different vibes. And even though I hang out with my American friends and we do stuff together and the whole thing, I prefer to live in a Mexican neighborhood with Mexicans, Mexican vibe, speaking Spanish, yada yada yada. Just because it reminds me of how I grew up and what I'm used to. My sister, I always like to use my sister because we're opposites, right? So my sister, on the other hand, no, no. You know what I mean? Like she speaks Spanish just as better than me, maybe, and everything. But long story short, she would rather live with maybe other Americans, but because of the lifestyle, okay, or maybe live with Mexicans that live an American lifestyle. Because again, there's all kinds of Mexicans out here. So there's tons of Mexicans that love to live the American lifestyle, like literally. And so there's that. So just really depends on you and what you're looking for. So uh Nick, yeah, so exactly. Nick said you had a burrito in Mexico City, pretty darn good. Yeah, so Mexico City is the only place you're gonna find food from everywhere. You're gonna find food from Baja, all the way at the tippy top, over there. We're gonna find fish tacos. I don't know about trusting a fish taco in Mexico City, but people say amazing things. And look, it is the center of the country. It's a very centralized country. So even things that get, that are, how do I say this, caught in the oceans or in the Gulf, they're literally brought within hours to the Mexico City. So, but still, yeah, whatever. Anyways, I'm a coastal guy. All right. So, to me, it's like if I'm inland, I'm eating beef, okay, or pork or chicken or whatever. Not so much, anyways, I digress. I'm sorry, I go on off on tangents, but yeah, Mexico City, you're gonna find that. You're gonna find fish tacos. You're gonna find cochinita pibil, or you're gonna find papatsu, the food from here. You're gonna find the northern food. You're gonna find the Oaxacan food. You're gonna find everything. In fact, and even again, obviously, Mexico City even has their own food. Mexico, there's a running joke in Mexico City that they put everything in a bolillo. A bolillo is just a piece of bread. So they'll eat like a tamal. They'll put a tamal inside a piece of bread. They'll put a sandwich inside a piece of bread. They'll put a taco inside a piece of bread. They'll put a bread inside a piece of bread. I mean, they're anyway. So yeah, long story short, you know what I mean? Like that's their thing there. Mexico City, they put everything in bread. So it's hilarious. So I mean, like I said, everywhere's basically very different. Are there any beach seaside towns that are predominantly Mayan areas? I have no idea. I would say maybe on the Quintana Roo side of things, closer to the Belize area, maybe. I would say, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a Mayan expert. My apologies. But I would say, yeah, maybe down that area. Not here. Not up here. Um Baron Von Crunch says, how is your e-bike battery holding up with the Bruto Merida heat? It's great so far. I haven't even charged it yet. Granted, I haven't used it that many times, but I haven't even charged it yet. So far, so good. So, and Christian's is really great too. Her battery is also really great. I mean, when we were using it heavy usage, I think, almost every day and was like charged once a week. So it was really good. Daniel says, since I've been living in Mexico for several years, what's one thing you hate the most about Mexicans? What bothers you, if anything? Man, man. Honestly, to tell you the truth, it's funny because I've lived in many places, in not just in Mexico, but other in parts of the USA, and it's not nothing in particular. It's just things about humans. It's no, I don't particularly hate anyone in particular or hate anything about anyone in particular, except just human nature. Sometimes it's like how humans are. You know what I mean. The older you get, the saying goes, you have less friends and more dogs or more pets and less friends. So it's just that, you know what I mean? Like, as the years have gone on, I've realized that no matter where you are, people are people. Some are nice, some are shitty, some are lazy, some are working hard, some are whatever. But honestly, I don't, Mexican people are fucking nice, man. They're fucking amazing. They're, man, I don't, I mean, that's a great question. And I'm not trying to dodge the question. I'm really trying to think, what, um, because they have an amazing attitude. They're happy, all the time. They're always go-getters, meaning that no matter how bad it gets, it's always like, okay, we got to lift up our pants, we got to get to work, we got to figure it out. They're very positive. They're amazing. Look, I'm not going to lie, they are a little racist, okay? They are a little classist, okay? I do have white privilege out here. Okay. But at least they're honest about it. They're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to fucking how do I say this? What's the word I'm looking for? Um Man, what's that word I'm looking for? Man, that thing that you're the people when the people that project anyways, I forgot what I was looking for. Oh. Anyways, but the point of it is at least they're more open about it here. And but it's yeah, I don't know, man. To tell you the truth, it's not nothing in particular. Um Maybe in this region here in the Yucatan, it's something that I would have to get used to, and a lot of people have to get used to. Is because I'm from the big city, Miami, LA, whatever. Like I'm used to faster moving things in the USA, and so living in this region is like moving to Mobile, Alabama. Meaning like, hey, you call somebody to get some plumbing done, and it's not like Miami or they're going to show up in 2 seconds. It's not like LA or they're going to show up, in 15 minutes. No, it's like southern or certain areas in the South where you'll be lucky if they show up in a couple days. Things like that. Things are very 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 slow. But I used to again hate that. I used to not like it. But now it's like as I'm living here, it's like, oh man, I prefer it. I prefer it. I'm happy. And it's like, you know what? When I get a little upset with how things work, I gotta remind myself, it's like, bro, you're the one that has to slow down and chill and get with the vibe. That's it. So honestly, man, there's not really much of anything, man. To tell you the truth, I love a lot of what Mexicans are and what they stand for, which is freedom, live and let live. You're very libertarian, sometimes to a fault. Meaning that they're very free. And that can sometimes not be good. Look, the other day we were walking the dogs, and we got attacked by a big dog. A neighbor, someone that we know, man, had some workers working on the property, and they went into their house, and they left the gate open. And long story short, the dog escaped. And this dog is, I mean, he's a mastiff, like he's a beast. He's bigger than the three dogs we were walking. This is a man. Long story short, man, it turned into a whole thing. Thank God, thank goodness, nothing happened. But it's like one of those random things that just happens, and it's like after it happened, it's like I couldn't be mad at the owner. I'm not mad at the dog either. The dog was just being a dog, and again, thank God it's like a big dog, a friendly dog, and nothing really happened. It was just whatever. But it could have been a big disaster. And basically, what happened was that like the workers they were 1000% responsible for their actions. They were not taking any responsibility for any action. They were almost like laughing and like whatever, to the point where I was like, I got so upset where I was like, man, they were on the roof, and I was like, man, I was like about to climb the roof and go up there, and again, I'm in Mexico, I could do whatever, right? So I was about to get some justice. It's like, it's not worth it. I was thinking of my, and I know the guy. I know the owner. It's not his fault that his shitty people that he hired to do some shitty job on the roof let that situation happen. But it's things like that. And so like, even if something were to happen, I can't sue the guy. He knows me. I know him. We all know it's an accident. I can't sue the workers. I can't do anything about it. The best thing I could basically do, again, what would I do if there's something accident, like a major thing happened? I would have to take the dog to the hospital. So I'm not going to be, trying to beat somebody up out of frustration while, I got to take my dog to the vet. And then by the time I get back from the vet, the guy's probably gone. I'm not going to go on a vigilante thing searching for the guy. I could if I wanted to, for the freedom of living out here, because the cops are not going to do anything. The government's not going to do anything. There's, what I'm saying? So it's so many little things like that for me, coming from Miami, coming from the hood, coming from certain things like that, it's like, you know what? I'm more used to that, living like that, figuring it out, as much as it sucks, yada, 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 as opposed to, living in Seattle, in Karenville, where you already know how that's going to work. You know what I mean? I'm going to sue the guy and the cop and and they're going to kill the other dog because he did this, and it's like so many things. Like, it's like it just gets out of hand so fast. And it's like, no, wait, whoa, 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 come on now. So that's the thing. I mean, I forgot what I was going with all that. I was just hey, you're asking me about what I hate. So what I hate, is like, yeah, I hate like people like that basically, since there are no consequences to their actions, well, they behave however they want. Now, with that said, since there's no consequences for my actions either, well, the reason they were able to do that, is because, yeah, the reason they weren't able to do that was simply because, well, I forgot what I was saying. Sorry, I got a text from somebody I was expecting. Anyways, oh yeah, the reason I didn't retaliate against those people was only because that's my neighbor. He's an older gentleman. I know the dog. I know, whatever, and like I'm not gonna retaliate against the dog. Come on, man. I'm not gonna retaliate against the guy that I know that he was there for me in another instance for another situation that I had. Um, and again, I couldn't retaliate against those workers because they were there for him. Now, if there were just those people there, random house, random dog. Look, I'm still probably not going to do nothing to the dog, but you better believe I was going to do something to those people. And again, I have all my right, as a Mexican resident, Mexican citizen, Mexican whatever, to get my justice, you know, within reason, obviously. And so things like that. So it's just like we're in the USA. You already know, man. It's like it's just depending on the state will depend on how you're going to get screwed, or how bad it's going to be. And out here, not so much. And so that's what I just remind myself. I'm like, all right, all right. It was a bad situation that happened the other day, but again, thank God that blah, 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 blah. At least this, that. Again, I know other Americans that I would talk to that happened with the same situation would happen, and they think it's crazy. They would prefer to have the litigation and to have the safety net and to have all the things that are set in place in the USA, that kind of stuff. So, and we got Javier there, saying hello. So shout out to Javier. Anyways, all right. Bye bye. Yeah, no time, man. I got only good vibes here. So yeah, but look, long story short, yeah. At the end of the day, what was I saying? Where were we at? We were talking about yeah. And by the way, right now, I had to just quiet somebody in the chat because yes, you're like I was saying earlier, you are gonna find just like in the USA right now. Okay, you're gonna find people like we don't want those immigrants. Get those immigrants out of here. Those immigrants are taking our jobs. Those immigrants are blah blah. Listen, 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 listen. You're gonna find Mexicans same. A lot of Americans are tolerant. A lot of Americans are pro-immigration, pro-immigrant, pro all that stuff. Same as Mexico's. Mexico's, most of them are pro America, pro Team USA, pro Team Mexico, pro American culture, pro, hey, let's work together, pro immigrants, pro whatever. As long as you're not out here causing a mess. Don't be coming out here asking for handouts. Don't be coming out here, making the life more miserable for others and things like that. But again, just like in the USA, you're going to find people that are blaming the immigrants for everything. Well, you're going to find people in Mexico that are going to be blaming you for their problems. Like, oh, you're the one that's causing the high prices. No, no. The Mexican that owns the store that raised the prices is responsible for the high prices. Not you. That's, again, you as a tourist, as an American tourist or an American living here, you don't want to pay high prices. Nobody does, so why are you the cause of it? You're not demanding or asking for these things, it's the other Mexicans that are implementing these things. And so that's just one of those things. A lot of Mexicans don't want to swallow that pill of the reality of the situation, that what's really causing these things have nothing to do with you or me in the audience right now. Look, same as in the USA. So many people want to blame all the problems in the USA on the immigrants. Really? We're gonna go there? We're gonna do that? Like people are, more. Are you kidding me? You already know they fall for it, hook, line, and sinker every single time. All right. Look, I am not pro, letting 700 million immigrants into the USA overnight like they did. Okay, I'm not for that either. Okay, so don't be out there in the audience thinking I'm like, no, I'm pro normal everything. All right, and but at the end of the day, part of the USA is receiving large monster swaths of immigrants, in one punch. So, I mean, for anyone that's American out there, we should be used to it by now. What the hell are we complaining about? And for anyone out there saying they're taking our jobs, no, they're not. No, they're not. Those jobs are for everybody. All right. Anyone out there want to work at McDonald's? You're more than willing to. You want to work the fields? There's tons of jobs for you waiting in the fields. There's tons of jobs waiting for you out there. You don't want them. You got a problem with that. You got to unionize. You got to go after. You got look. It's like a lot of people say is like, oh, if Mexico's so great, then why don't they take down the cartels and take down the government and stop coming to the USA? Well, same thing. Why don't you guys do the same thing? Why don't you guys take care of your own government and stop, trying to mess with other people's countries or governments or whatever. But hey, it's just like again a whole conversation I can have, forever here. Which, again, if you watch more of my other videos and my live streams, you get to see more of those conversations. Speaking of which, I see that I've already gone pretty long here today. So before we head out of here, I want to give you guys a quick reminder, please. Again, if you like this kind of content, you like everything I'm doing right here, and you want to see more, check out my channel. All right, check out the other live streams. Again, I go live every Thursday on this channel, and I drop videos every Sunday, and now every Tuesday. So Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. All right, and then if you really like, the things that I talk about on this channel, and you want me to go deeper, all right, well, guess what? I go deep, homeboy. I go very, very, very deep. And you guys, please, in fact, if you liked everything today on this channel, everything that we did today, talked about today, and you want to help support the show, you want to help support me, I'm asking you for one favor, one tiny little itty bitty favor. Can you please go to my other channel right there? You're looking at it on screen, Jose Unleashed, and go subscribe, please. I'm only 31 subscribers away from getting to 1,000 subscribers. Okay, please, 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 please help me out. Help me help you. So go over there, and get all your dummy accounts. Get your friends. Please, please go over there and subscribe. I would love you very much. Today we're going to be talking about how you are your own worst enemy. Yeah, I'm sure you guys are very interested in hearing what all that is about. So you guys already know how we talk about all kinds of topics on this channel. On Unleashed, all kinds of topics people don't want to talk about or discuss, and so on and so forth. Again, you guys can see all the videos here. Okay, talk about all kinds of things. You guys can see even my political leanings in case you're interested. You want to see that. So but anyways, guys, please, 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 I would love it if you guys show me some support over there. And again, go to my website. And on my website, I got all kinds of tons of free stuff. Free information on moving to Mexico, free information, free resources, free, all for you, free o'clock. Okay. And that's it. I think that's it, guys. I think we're gonna wrap this up. I want to give a big monster shout out to everyone out there in the audience. You guys know who you are. All of my all the patrons out there that I have had hold on a second, throughout the years. All my members, every single one of you guys out there that helps support the show. Again, whether you are a member and you send a few bucks every month, or you send a few bucks here or there, you send a super chat, whatever it is you do, I love you guys. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And again, if you guys cannot afford to send me even $1, don't worry about it. There's other ways you can support me, like simply sharing my videos, hitting the like button, subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. Again, share that video, share it like a virus. Share it with your friends, share it with your frenemies. Maybe there's somebody in the office that you don't like very much. Well, share it with them. Just they can maybe move to Mexico and get away from you. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Either way, share me, like a virus. All right, and you already know the deal, guys. I love you guys out there. Thank you guys so much. Experiment Everything says, hey man, is Guadalajara, Jalisco good for tech focused professionals? Yes, 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 1,000%. In fact, go to my on my right there on my YouTube page. Okay, just go down, all right, where it says Guadalajara, and I got a whole playlist. on Guadalajara. We went to visit there last year. Amazing. I talk about it a lot. It's the Silicon Valley of Mexico. I highly recommend it, and especially if you're into tech. That was a great question. And yes, you just found me 2 weeks ago, learning so much. Well, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. I'm glad I can help you out. But yeah, if you're tech minded, oh yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. I definitely recommend Guadalajara. And again, once you're done here, go check out the playlist. And at your leisure, you get to hear my thoughts on living out there, and you get to see what it looks like, and so on and so forth. So, all right, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up. And by the way, just I don't know how long you were watching this live stream. You can go back to the beginning, rewatch it, and I do talk more in depth, okay, on the region. Again, we went deep, into the country, talked about the regions and the states and things like that. So check it out if you didn't see it earlier, okay? And I think that's it, guys. So oh, hey, thank you, thank you. I'm glad. I'm glad. See, thank you, experimental everything, experiment everything. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. Those are the comments I appreciate. It's like thank you. You're saying thank you. So much hours of learning. Love the playlist. That's right. I try. Look, guys, I try to help you guys as much as I can. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not selling anything. You got to remember that. I'm trying to help you help yourselves. Okay. I know I am not the channel for everybody. A lot of people don't want that. A lot of people just want to just have everything done for them. All right. And I keep telling those people Mexico might not be for you. But anyways, long story short, if you're a go-getter, if you more than willing to do things, okay, on your own, which again, as an adult, I would assume, right? You should be pretty good at by now. Long story short, then you're gonna love my channel. You're gonna love my videos because I basically make it as easy as humanly possible for you. I'm not telling you not to hire a facilitator or a lawyer or no, I'm not saying that at all. You got to hire people from time to time. But you don't have to hire people all the time. You don't got to buy expensive packages from people. No, you don't got to do any of that. Like like for reals. Like come on. If you're moving to Cincinnati, are you going to, hire somebody and buy a thing? No, you're not. You're just moving to Cincinnati. All right? Jeez. Anyways, look, the point I'm making is that yes, I appreciate that comment because again, I have playlist on everything. Okay, we got driving around the Yucatan. We got walking around the Yucatan. Bike rides around the Yucatan. Adventures. Got real estate. You got walking around Guadalajara. We got all the other Guadalajara videos. Teco Yucatan. That's a little village that we like to go visit out there. Other touristy stuff out here. At the beach. A lot of people are like, hey, Jose, when are you going to make beach videos? I've already made 12 and counting. Check those out. Watch those first, okay? And then I'll make more. I'm going to be making more, okay? But just watch those, okay? I got Merida home tours. I got interviews. Look at that. I got 32 interviews and counting. Okay. We got business in Mexico, real estate in Mexico. Again, all these are playlists. Okay. Each playlist has many videos in it with tons of information pertaining to the subject. All right. All your questions answered. That's all the live stream stuff. Whatever. Mexican food. Oh yeah, whatever. It's just basics of living out here. I even got travel videos. I got Cuba videos. I went to go to Cuba, exploring the Yucatan. I mean, I got so many playlists. I didn't even know I got these playlists out here. Anyways, all right, Oaxaca. Don't forget about Oaxaca. We're trying to show you Oaxaca today, but anywho's, I think that's it. That's it. Is that it? I don't know, man. Sorry, I ran out of steam there. Anyways, all right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up. We're done here. We've already, even wrapping it up takes forever. Hey, yeah. All right, time to get out of here, guys. How can Experiment says, how can you contact you if you want to consult with you? Great question, man. Who are you? I don't know who you are out there, but I'm here. I'm gonna send you a special sound effect, all right? Because you're just awesome today. Thank you very much. Hold on a sec. Here you go. That's right. Okay. Go to my website. Right there on my website, you're gonna find again Mexico general information, living in Merida, where I live information, all kinds of information. But right there, also personalized consultations. Click on that, and you're gonna be able to find out exactly how it works. And that's it. Email me, get in contact, and we'll set it up. And I'll be more than happy to answer your questions because for a lot of people, it's a lot easier to just ask me the questions instead of watching hundreds and hundreds of videos. For some people, hey, you might not be able to afford the fee. No problem. Watch the videos. Either way, we're helping each other. Okay. So if time is money, you can pay me. If money is time or what, I don't know, whatever. If you got more money than, if you got more time than money, watch the videos. If you got more money than time, then, you can consult with me and we can go from there. So, all right, guys. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Thank you so much for subscribing, to my other channel. I'll see you guys there in about 30 minutes. All right. We're going to be talking about, well, how you can get out of your own way. All right. So get out of your own way. All right. So, because, most people out there, we're living our lives on impossible for no reason at all. It's all our fault. All right, guys. Love you. Peace out. See you guys on the next one. See you guys on Sunday. See you guys on Tuesday. See you guys on Thursday. See you guys here every other day.